The slap landed so hard that the medic's helmet shifted sideways. For a moment, nobody moved. Not the wounded Americans lying on stretchers, not the guards standing beside a line of German prisoners, not even the cold wind pushing across the muddy field outside a shattered German town. Everything seemed to stop. The American medic had spent the entire morning saving lives. His hands were stained with blood. His uniform was soaked from kneeling beside wounded men. He carried no rifle, no machine gun, no weapon at all. The red cross on his helmet marked him as a medic, a man whose job was to keep soldiers alive. And now an SS officer had just struck him across the face. The medic stumbled backward, shocked more than hurt. The German officer stared at him with cold eyes. Around them, dozens of men watched. Nobody yet knew that this single moment would travel through an entire army. Nobody knew that before the day ended, the story would reach one of the most feared commanders in Europe. And nobody knew what General George S. Patton would do when he heard that an American medic had been humiliated in front of his own men. March 22, 1945, near the German town of Oppenheim. The Western Front was moving fast. Germany was collapsing, but it was not collapsing quietly. Every road carried refugees. Every village held frightened civilians. Every forest seemed to hide another group of desperate soldiers. The war was entering its final months, yet many of the hardest fights still lay ahead. The U.S. Third Army, commanded by General George Patton, had crossed deep into German territory. Town after town was falling. Bridges were being seized. Prisoners were surrendering by the thousands. But among the regular German army units, there were still members of the Waffen-SS. Many fought fanatically. Many refused to accept defeat. And many hated surrender more than death. Corporal Thomas Weaver, a 26-year-old medic from Ohio, had seen enough death to last several lifetimes. Before the war, he had worked in a small hospital. He was not a natural soldier. He had never dreamed of carrying wounded men through artillery fire. Yet that had become his daily life. On that cold March morning, Weaver was assigned to a temporary medical station near a prisoner collection point. American units were moving so quickly that field hospitals often had to be set up wherever shelter could be found. A damaged warehouse stood beside a muddy road. Inside, wounded Americans were receiving treatment. Outside, German prisoners waited to be transported farther to the rear. The atmosphere was tense but controlled. Then everything changed. Shortly after noon, a truck arrived carrying several captured SS personnel. Most remained silent. One of them did not. The officer was a captain in the Waffen-SS, tall, thin, dirty from weeks of retreat. His uniform was worn, but his pride was untouched. Witnesses later remembered his expression. He did not look defeated. He looked angry. The prisoners were ordered from the truck and directed toward a holding area. One wounded German soldier suddenly collapsed. Instinctively, Weaver rushed forward. A medic treated whoever needed help. American, German, civilian, it did not matter. That was the job. Weaver knelt beside the injured prisoner and began checking his condition. The SS captain stepped forward. Nobody knew exactly what he said. Some remembered German shouting, others recalled insults. But everyone agreed on what happened next. The officer struck Weaver across the face. The sound echoed across the yard. For a second, complete silence followed. American soldiers instantly raised their weapons. Prisoners froze. The wounded German on the ground stared upward, and Weaver slowly lifted his head. His cheek was red. His eyes showed disbelief. The SS officer had just assaulted a medic who was trying to save a German life. American guards immediately grabbed the officer. Several infantrymen wanted to do far more than that. Months of combat had hardened them. Many had lost friends to SS units. Several later admitted they nearly attacked the prisoner on the spot. But discipline held. Barely, the officer was separated and placed under guard. The medic returned to work, at least physically. Mentally, the incident stayed with everyone who witnessed it. The story spread within hours. A driver told another unit. A sergeant told a lieutenant. A lieutenant told headquarters personnel. Each retelling added details. The SS captain became more arrogant. The slap became harder. The anger became greater. By evening, soldiers across several locations were discussing it. Some wanted punishment. Others wanted retaliation. Many simply wondered what would happen next. Meanwhile, General George Patton was dealing with 1,000 other problems. Fuel shortages, bridge crossings, artillery coordination, prisoner processing, advance routes. His army was moving rapidly, and every decision mattered. Patton was famous for aggression. He demanded speed, he demanded discipline, he demanded results. Yet there was another side to him that many soldiers rarely saw. He had strong opinions about military honor. He expected soldiers to behave professionally, even in war, especially in victory. Late that evening, reports from several subordinate units reached higher headquarters. Among routine paperwork and operational updates was a brief account of an incident involving captured SS personnel and an American medic. At first glance, it seemed minor. One prisoner, one slap. No serious injury, no gunfire, no deaths. But as additional details arrived, interest grew. The prisoner had assaulted a medic. Not an infantryman, not an armed guard, a medic. And he had done so while the medic was attempting to provide treatment. The incident eventually reached officers close to 3rd Army headquarters. From there, it continued upward. By the following day, Patton knew. Nobody could predict his reaction. Patton was famous for explosive anger. He could praise a soldier 1 minute and tear apart a commander the next. Stories about his temper circulated throughout the army. Some were true, some were exaggerated. All contributed to his reputation. When the report was placed before him, witnesses later recalled that he read it more than once. Not because it was complicated, because something about it bothered him. A medic represented something important. Even armies that hated each other often respected medical personnel. Combat medics walked into danger without carrying the same offensive weapons as infantrymen. They treated friend and enemy alike. To strike such a man while receiving humanitarian aid crossed a line. Patton reportedly asked several questions. Who was the medic? Who witnessed the event? What was the prisoner's status? Had any American soldier retaliated? The answers mattered. Discipline mattered. Facts mattered. Patton wanted the truth. Not rumors, not emotional stories, the truth. Investigators gathered statements. Witnesses described the same basic sequence. The medic approached a wounded German. The SS officer interfered. The slap occurred. American guards restrained the prisoner. No unauthorized retaliation followed. The more details emerged, the more attention the case received. Some soldiers expected a dramatic response. Others expected nothing. After all, the war was nearing its end. Entire cities were falling. Compared to major operations, one slap seemed insignificant. Patton disagreed. History often focuses on battles. Generals often focus on standards. An army that ignored small violations could eventually ignore larger ones. Patton understood that. Within days, orders regarding prisoner handling and conduct were reinforced throughout portions of 3rd Army. Medical personnel were to receive full protection while carrying out their duties. Prisoners who interfered with treatment would face immediate disciplinary measures under established procedures. The message traveled quickly. It was clear. No captured soldier would be allowed to intimidate American medical staff. No matter who he was, no matter what rank he held, and no matter how desperate Germany's situation became. For Weaver, life continued. There was no celebration, no ceremony, no dramatic public event. The war kept moving. Casualties continued arriving. Wounded men still needed treatment. The front line remained active. Yet something had changed. Word spread that headquarters had taken the incident seriously. Soldiers noticed. Medics noticed. Officers noticed. Many felt reassured. The issue was not revenge. It was respect. Respect for the men who ran toward casualties while others sought cover. Respect for those who worked through exhaustion and fear. Respect for the Red Cross painted on a helmet. As spring advanced, the Third Army pushed deeper into Germany. The Rhine had been crossed. Resistance was weakening. American forces encountered evidence of destruction on a scale many had never imagined. Concentration camps, starvation, forced labor, entire communities shattered by years of war. The closer victory came, the more complicated emotions became. Relief mixed with anger, satisfaction mixed with grief. Everyone wanted the fighting to end. Yet many soldiers felt haunted by what they had seen. Weaver was among them. He continued serving until the final weeks of the conflict. Like thousands of medics, he rarely spoke about his experiences afterward. The men he saved remembered him. The records rarely did. That was often the fate of medics. They appeared briefly in official reports and then disappeared behind statistics. But their work mattered. Every life preserved represented a family that might see a son return home. Every bandage applied under fire represented courage that seldom appeared in headlines. Patton understood that better than many people realized. He admired aggressive fighters. That was true. But he also respected competence. And medical personnel represented competence in one of its purest forms. When the war in Europe finally ended in May 1945, celebrations erupted across the continent. Church bells rang, crowds gathered, soldiers cheered. Yet for many veterans, memories remained complicated. They remembered battles, they remembered friends, and sometimes they remembered small moments that revealed larger truths. The slap outside that damaged warehouse was one of those moments. On paper, it seemed insignificant. One prisoner, one medic, a few seconds, nothing more. Yet it exposed the contrast between two very different ideas. One side saw weakness in compassion. The other saw strength. One side tried to humiliate a man offering medical help. The other insisted that such service deserved protection. That difference mattered, perhaps more than many battlefield victories. Years later, veterans who witnessed similar incidents often remembered not the violence itself, but the reactions that followed. Leadership revealed itself during moments when nobody expected history to be watching. Patton's army was known for speed. It was known for bold attacks. It was known for relentless advances. But armies are judged by more than movement on maps. They are judged by standards, how they treat prisoners, how they treat civilians, how they treat their own wounded, and how they protect those who risk everything to save lives. The SS officer likely believed his slap was a meaningless act of defiance, a final insult during Germany's collapse, a brief moment of anger, nothing more. Instead, it became something larger, a reminder that discipline must survive even in chaos, a reminder that medics deserve protection regardless of nationality, a reminder that respect cannot be separated from military professionalism. and a reminder that even during the largest war in human history, a single action could travel all the way to the desk of General George S. Patton. In the end, the most powerful part of the story was not the slap. It was what happened afterward. No mob revenge, no uncontrolled violence, no emotional outburst. Instead came investigation, accountability, and a reaffirmation of standards. That response revealed far more about an army than anger ever could. Because wars are filled with moments that test men. Some tests involve bullets, others involve choices. And on a cold day in Germany during the final months of World War II, one choice revealed exactly what kind of army Patton wanted to lead. An army that fought hard, moved fast, won battles, but never forgot the value of the men whose mission was not to take life, but to save it. And that is why the incident was remembered long after the sound of the slap had faded into history.